All right, welcome back. We are at part 2 in the Uniting Clarity show, and we are with Miss Maria, wonderful, wonderful woman of God, and just a pleasure to speak to. Has an abundance of wisdom, and I want to dig right in because in the last episode we were talking a lot about justifying your presence and misfit and so on and so forth, and the cultural differences, and oh my gosh, defying odds. I mean, there was so much, but I want you to expound more on once introduce yourself again for anybody that didn't hear part 1 briefly, and then go into explaining what is a misfit, because you're like a coach for misfits. So let's explain what a misfit is.
Okay, well, hello again, everyone. Again, I am the business coach for Misfits. And the reason why I specialize in Misfits is because I've always been one. So everybody in us, there is that part of us that feel we don't belong. Whether we're different from our parents, we're different from our friends, we're different from our classmates, we're different from our siblings, we're different from the cousins. From a very young age, there is that part of us that know we are different, right? Okay. However, so there is that knowing that I'm different from a young age. However, as you grow up, society, your parents, your teachers, society, your environment tells you how to be and how to do, how to think, how to act, right?
Correct.
So something like, if your culture is very collective, speaking out was really not advised. Maybe now that generation changed. But back then, 20 years ago, when I grew up, I'm sure Tanya Patxot, when you grew up, it wasn't accepted to question your elders. Right?
No,
If
I
it,
get it.
back then, when we asked our parents, but why? Maybe we get slapped. We're lucky if it's just slap.
Yes, because we're not allowed to even be curious and ask questions of why. And even with my children, they'll ask me a question, and if my mom or somebody older is around, why are you raising your kids that way? To just, well, because they have opinions, and sometimes they need to understand a little bit more why something. And then there's times that I'm just like, listen. But then there's
Yes.
legit times where I'm like, I think I need to expound on that.
Yes. But see, there is that part of us that want to be different, that know we're different. But that difference in us has been buried so long. Because when you want to say, but no, we don't do it that way here. No, you cannot wear something like this.
Yeah.
No, you don't cut your hair like this. No, you don't speak to your elders like that. No, you're now put on that, you're now molded into that box. So instead of you being
That's in
so,
everything. That's even in
yes,
church. It's like all this religion is put on you. Don't do this and don't do that. And I'm like, this doesn't even look like God by the time you're like years into like serving God.
exactly, right? So being a misfit, okay, that misfit, that just difference, if you share your difference, you think differently, you act differently, you speak differently, that, for me, I've always been different. Very, very different. And because of that difference, I got bullied a lot. And maybe people, if I tell this now, or maybe people who saw me grow up, they might be surprised. What do you mean by bullied? Bullying is not about the person being silent. I have a strong personality. I've always had a strong personality. I'm an extrovert. So it's very normal for me to be very big in personality. This is just me. Okay. I speak a lot. I have a lot of gestures. But bullying is when a group of people decide, hey, because you're different, we're going to gang up on you. We're going to make you feel small. We're going to make you feel like you don't belong. That is bullying. Bullying is not about laughing at the nerd. It's not just that. Bullying is when you try to let the other person who's expressing her difference shrink her life to fit a box. That is bullying. whatever box that is. And because society has given us that concept from a very young age, this is the reason why innovation is not where it should be.
Come on.
In as much as people want to say, hey, you have to go to school, you have to have opinions, when opinions are presented, when a difference of opinions are presented in front of you, it's hard for people to accept. It's like you can be different, but not too different. You can think, but not too much.
Uh-huh.
You can have a say, but not too much, not too loud.
Come on now.
You can be, but just a certain way.
It's funny because I remember taking a lot of different, like, understanding how I function, a personality test, things like that, Myers-Briggs. I mean, there's so much out there. And I remember always getting like the results, and they were always like, you're a simplifier, you're this, you're that, but it always, I realized I was like 0.03 of the population. And when I really thought about that, while that was cool in one perspective, it's so difficult sometimes for me to feel understood.
Yes, of course.
And, and then it would be like, I love to use my imagination. I love to be innovative and creative, and I'm a creator, and I'll be behind the scenes creating. But then it would be like, slow down. Why are you always creating? Why? And now I get it. You need to have this balance. You need to have a follow through. You can't just create and not follow through and do those things. But instead of the molding and the shaping to say, here, let me help you refine and support, without smashing the creative aspect and the foretelling, because I would be out like 10 years in advance. It would always be like this thing where I was embarrassed. I would start to feel ashamed to really operate how God created me to operate. It was almost like, does that make sense? Like, it was almost shameful to operate that way.
I think my existence is an embarrassment and insult to many people, to be honest.
Oh my gosh.
Because
another meme.
Because because of that, I can show compassion. Because I understand it, because I can see how, imagine there's this young girl from a little island in the Asia Pacific who can be whoever she is, who can, who's so unapologetic, who wears whatever she wants to wear, is still successful, is still charming, is still liked. People cannot comprehend that. Imagine people in their 60s or 70s seeing this young girl successful being herself, when all their lives they tried so hard to be that perfect box so that they could be loved. And then they see this person just doing whatever they want, and still nobody's saying, hey, you shouldn't do that. Or like, of course they didn't see before. They saw the part where I'm so comfortable with who I am. It didn't affect my wealth. It didn't affect my success. They saw the part where I'm at peace with who I am, and that people are also at peace with who I am. And of course, it's an insult.
That can cause a problem.
Yeah, but that becomes now an insult to them, right? They spent so long fighting to be loved, justifying their presence by being good, obedient, being prim and proper, being whatever they want, whatever that I'm not. Of course, to some extent, it's an insult to their intelligence and their existence and their years of struggle to fit in. So because of that, I can show love. Because of that, I can really, really forgive everybody that hurts me.
That's really beautiful, because it's also a part of ownership and accepting, because you can accept those things within yourself and understand that you are different, you think differently. You can just say, okay, I respect how you think. I respect,
yes.
That you might not see what I see. And then I started to understand like whom I can pour out to. and whom would be a safe place for me to just put all those ideas and all those things, and you know what I mean, and be able to compartmentalize different areas, and not force who I
Your
am on,
difference.
yeah, my difference, or who I am, or how it is, you know, if
On
we,
other.
yeah, like if I have somebody that's not an entrepreneur or doesn't even think that way, there's a different way that I could still honor them without bashing them, like, oh, you don't
Yes,
have a business, or you should do this.
exactly.
They're not,
Yeah.
they might not be called to it, or they might not see it. And something that really got me too was, um God showed me that, you know, sometimes when you speak over somebody, when you know, those type of things, or even working with some of the students that I've worked with over the last 15 years, they're held accountable for what you say.
Yes.
If you tell them certain things, so you have to make sure that people are ready to hear what you're going to say.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you have to identify, is this really going to benefit them, or is it going to, you know,
Hurt them.
or, yeah, or is it going to hurt them? Is it going to confuse them more than
Yeah.
anything? Because I can't just sit there and be like, well, I know and I can see what the issue is, so I'm going to do whatever I have to do and tell you, so I can fulfill my ego that I'm worth it, and that I validate,
Yes.
you know, my
My
prophetic
presence.
giftings or my presence or whatever. And it's like, wrong. So I love that.
Let me share a story here. Is that okay?
Yeah, share the story, and then I want you to share the like what somebody can do, a couple different areas that they could work on as far as if they feel like they're a misfit.
So my mom and I are total opposites because I'm the one that wants to be different, okay? And my mom is the one that wants to belong. So just imagine, right? And when people ask me, so how do you do it? How, especially now that more and more people own their difference,
Mm-hmm.
people ask me often, how do you do it? How can you be okay? And how do you deal with family not supporting you? And my answer is always, people cannot support what they don't understand.
Very good.
So why would I push my difference and force my mother to support something she doesn't understand, instead of just being okay that she accepts me?
Because you, sometimes people still have that little bit of that belonging, and they so
Yes.
crave for their husband, their mother, their family, their children to understand a part of them. Like
But
I
sometimes
remember,
we don't, yeah, but sometimes we don't need to be understood. We just need to be accepted.
mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you this story. If I tell my mother, if my mother asks me, why are you doing what you're doing? Okay. And if I tell my mother, because I will be happy, she will not understand that answer. Because in her mind, happy equals money. In their generation, I think regardless of the culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the US, happy is white picket fence,
Yeah, house,
right?
white picket fence,
Yes,
husband.
yes, exactly. Happy is husband, happy is white picket fence.
Yeah.
I think in any culture, it really doesn't matter what the culture is. I think it's most likely it will be some kind of white picket fence, perfect family, having that uh the perfect family, the perfect, the perfect
Uh-huh.
whatever.
Uh-huh.
So I will never tell my mother, why are you doing this? Because I'm happy. Because she will not understand it. It will insult her intelligence. It will break her mind.
Wow.
So instead, what I will say, well, mom, do you know that what I'm doing brings quite a lot of money to me? Then I go now into calculation. Listen, if I start a business and let's say I start a store, how much is rent? Okay. I will calculate because in my family, what people understand is numbers. Where I come from an entrepreneurial family, so everybody has a calculator for their brain. So they literally, we don't need paper and pen. We can just literally speak of
Calculate.
numbers like that. I'll say something like, okay, do you know if I start a business today, let's say I don't even know what I'm going to do. In my family, the answer to everything is start a business. You're sad, start a business. You're depressed, start a business. You're confused, start a business. Because everybody's a business person, okay? So that's it. You don't know what to do? Start a business. You're unsure? You're stuck? Start a business. You're sad? Start a business. You're depressed? Start a business. Really, right? Like, I'm sure in every family it's different, but there is always that answer, right? So if I tell my mother, well, I'm doing this because I'm happy, she cannot understand that, really. So I will say something like, okay, listen, if I start a business that when I don't know what I'm going to do, that means I need to pay rent. Rent might be $1,000 or $2,000, and that is, let's say, in a very cheap place. And then that means, you know, in business you have to have at least 6 months operating like for rent, because you know in the first few months you don't expect to make that much fast, right? Okay, on top of the rent, I need stocks. So it means I need capital to get stocks, right? The products. Then I will go on calculating, okay, overhead costs, okay, electricity, blah, blah, blah. I start now talking off these things. But then I will tell her, do you know if I start a business online, what do I need? I just need a computer. I can do it at home. So my startup cost is not even 10% of what I would spend on a physical store when I don't know what I want.
True.
When my mother heard that, everything is okay. She doesn't question what I'm doing because she doesn't understand, right? For her, she just wants me to be safe. Parents don't really want their kids to be happy. Parents want their kids to be safe, right?
Well, so you were able to learn to communicate and bring her in a place, bring her peace without having to justify all the other things of why you're doing it.
Yes.
You doing what you're doing is not just, it's not just money to you. There's so much more to it and value to it.
But she won't understand that. That's
correct. She just wants to know, like what you said, the reason why she's asking, she wants to know that you're safe, that you have peace, that you have financials, that's all she wants to know. Like that's it. And for you to go off on a tangent somewhere else, you lose the person. I get what you're saying.
Not only we lose the person, we now put the other person in defense mode, right?
Yeah.
Because if I say, oh, but I'm happy, what do you mean you're happy? What does that mean? And then you now go into an argument because each part will not, there is no, people are really crazy because we don't let go that fast, right? So we want to prove our intelligence. We want to justify that we're smarter than someone else. So if I go into because I'm happy, what do you mean by happy? Blah 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 blah. Or immediately the person will think, what do you mean by happy? Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I'm not happy? So then that person will now go into, what do you mean by happy? Why will you not be happy if you have this? Because in her mind, happy is white picket fence. And of course, if that goes into that direction, then me being very, very, very passionate about what I do, I'm now going to defend it again. So what happens? That now harms relationship. That now puts relationship at odds. That now makes everybody feel bad.
And then you leave with no communication, and
and you cut off and you're thinking, oh my God, my mother doesn't understand me. My mother doesn't accept me. You know, poor me. Nobody loves me.
Yeah.
But actually, it's the way your mother loves. I think no mother, if your mother would choose love or protect or happy for my child, I would for sure they will choose protect.
Oh yeah, right? Absolutely. Because women naturally have that protection. They want that protection. That's why when you marry your husband or whatever, you know, that's something. I guarantee you 10 times out of 10 they felt safe or some type of protection, because that's how women, you know, view. So when you come down to, in closing, you know, how would you define just like one or two things that you would say if somebody's feeling like a misfit? Everybody's has to come to their different way of inner healing and those type of things, but what are some eye-opening things that you've done?
You have to be at peace. Yes, you have to be at peace with who you are. And you do not need to justify your difference. You do not need to prove your intelligence.
Or your work.
Me, yes, me speaking to my mom in that experience, right, does not make me less than who I am. People go into that. The problem with misfits, okay, especially those that are, there's everybody's a misfit. Remember this, it's just a matter of degree. How misfit are they? Okay. So especially for people who are more on the misfit line, the more on the misfit pole, it's hard to be a misfit because a part of you wants to be so different, and then the natural human side of you wants to belong. So threading that line and having that balance can be challenging. Imagine if you live your life constantly trying to prove why being different is right.
Instead of just being.
Exactly. So if ever you feel like you need to defend yourself or justify your worth, maybe ask yourself, which part of me can't I accept?
Yeah. Total. I love that. Which part of you can you not accept? I remember, I'll end with this quote. I remember seeing it, and oh, here we go. It was really interesting, and it goes along with what you said. There are some people who could hear you speak 1,000 words and still not understand you. And there are others who will understand without you even speaking a word.
Yeah.
And you have to understand who those people are that you have to speak 1,000 words to and will never understand. Because just like what you did with your mom, you could speak 1,000 words and she wouldn't understand. You had to understand, what did you need to do to communicate with her and keep a healthy relationship, and so on and so forth. And that's a maturity and understanding on your part. And so, hurrah. That takes a long time for people to get to. So, Maria, you are absolutely amazing. I appreciate you taking your valuable time and really just talking about the realness. And I know a lot of people want to ask, what does that have to do with business? Again, how you are as a person and at home, that all matters. It really does.
Let me answer that. What does it mean? How does it differ in business? I'm a business coach. I've been a business consultant. What makes a business thrive is what makes it unique. Because when you are so anchored in what makes you different, if you know how to differentiate yourself in the market, people are going to you not because of your price, not because of your product, but because of the story and the message you share.
Yes.
So today, if Disney has a pen that has Disney, people are not buying a pen. They're buying home Disney. They're bringing home Disney to them.
Yeah, because the message that Disney has put into their mind, just like, when they say Coca-Cola, you have a Coke and a smile, you get it ingrained that if you have a Coke, you're going to smile. Like there's something there, Anyway, it's one of those things that you got to start thinking outside of the box. You really do have to start thinking outside of the box and realize that you can't really separate who you are, business, home. You can't be 1,000 different. Now you can respond different ways, but you need to really dig deep and identify like whom you really are as a person. And so I thank you. And again, all of the information you're going to be able to see to be able to get a hold of Maria. Again, what is your website?
Maria-Tan.com. Follow me on Instagram. Instagram is my second home, at Maria_K_Tan.
All right. And that'll all be in this post and wherever you see the video as well. Definitely, again, listen over and over. There's no way that you can retain all the information all at once. There were so many nuggets and memes that she had in there that I'm like, I got to listen to that and kind of meme them out there. I love it. Thank you so much. And God bless everyone.